What is going on, traders? We got a few things to discuss, but before we get into that, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, in this video, I'm going to go over my expectations heading into the rest of this week, and then I'm going to give you guys some stocks that I really think have potential for amazing upside, profit, money, bags, gains, all that fun stuff. All right. But first things first, let's go over the SPY. So, heading into tomorrow. So, what do we know about Mondays? If you've been following my channel for a while, you know the answer to this. Mondays usually mirror Fridays. Yeah, right? If you're new to the channel, then congratulations, you learned something new. Now, if you don't understand what that means that Fridays and Mondays usually mirror each other. If Friday is bullish, then usually Monday is going to be bullish. If Fridays are bearish, then usually Mondays are going to be bearish. And if Fridays are just really lackluster and consolidate, then you can expect the same thing for Monday. Now, it is important to note that we do have a lot of FOMC members speaking tomorrow between 8:45 Eastern and 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you're the type of trader that trades off news, or you just don't want to trade off news and you like to sit on cash, then that is something to keep in mind heading into tomorrow. As far as your key levels go on the SPY, 432, not 432, 532, 531.5 is your key level here as far as upside. Now, if you're wondering where this trend is, SPY has potential to go to 550. I know it sounds crazy, but hear me out. We zoom out. As you guys can see, this trend is a very significant area. We bounced here, bounced here, bounced, 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 so on and so forth. So I'm not making this trend up. I didn't pull it out the sky. I'm not coping for upside here. Clearly, this is a very significant area, and when we finally broke through it, we pretty much broke down. All right, we consolidated for a bit, and then we finally broke down. So mark this trend on your charts if you are the type of trader that believes trend lines work. Otherwise, ignore it. Do what you want with this information. All right. So again, SPY can go as high as 550. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen tomorrow or even this week, but it is something to keep in mind because once we get above 532, we're pretty much in price discovery mode, and we're looking at our psych levels after that: 535, 540, so on and so forth. So again, there's potential for the SPY to go to 550. And again, I'm not saying it can happen this week. I'm not saying it can happen next week. It may not even happen at all. All right. But it is election year. We got a lot going on this year. So, will we really be surprised? All right. As far as downside goes, 527. All right. You want SPY to hold 527. Otherwise, it gives up 527. The next key level you're looking at is 525, 523.5. As you guys can see here, I marked it out. Rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, rejection, so on and so forth. So very significant area between 523.5, 525. So mark this on your charts. We break below that, then chances are we're heading to 520, 519 range. As you guys can see here, another significant level. Rejection here, rejection, rejection, rejection. You guys get the idea, right? And then even here, we consolidated above this level and we bounced. All right. So very important levels. All right. So mark these levels on your charts. Keep them in mind when you decide to trade or if you decide to trade this week. Triple Qs. Triple Qs, pretty, I mean, this is probably the cleanest I've seen triple Qs in a while. Really annoying thing to chart, but this is very clean. I mean, as you guys can see here, 446.8 and 449 is your key supply and demand zone. Rejection here, rejection, 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 rejection. You get the idea here. All right. When we finally broke through, we broke through pretty clean. Right now, we're retesting 449 area, 450 psych level, if you want to count that, and it looks like we have potential to go higher. Now, if we do go lower and we break below 449 and hold, then we're looking at a move towards that 446.8, 447 area. After that, if you break below that, then you're pretty illiquid. I would say if you break below 445 psych level, then you get pretty illiquid. Okay, as you guys can see, very illiquid area. I wouldn't say very, but kind of a liquid area. And then even over here, very illiquid. So we may drop fast towards 440 if we just so happen to break below 445. So keep this on your radar. I imagine that would only happen if we get like news or something, or bad news, I would say. All right. But this is a very strong area. Look how many times we rejected here. Very strong area. So I imagine if we're going to break this, we need like crazy, terrible news. Okay. So keep this on your radar. I've also mentioned this last video. Triple Qs can go as high as 460. Okay, 460, 465. I even said in the last video that if we do just so happen to drop, the drop will give us a reason to create more space for more upside. So 460, 465 is on the table. And so far, um, we've since my last video, we went to 455, 454 range, okay, give or take. So, all right, don't knock the levels, okay? I know they sound crazy, but no, don't knock them yet, all right? 450, 460 is on the table here, guys. 460 is on the table, all right? Now, let's get into some stocks. First stock is Nvidia. All right, so Nvidia has earnings this week. I believe it's on Wednesday after hours. So something to keep in mind here. They also have their CEO speaking tomorrow, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Just make sure you look that up before you decide to do anything as far as Nvidia goes. But as you guys can see, we have us a nice inverse head and shoulders pattern, very clean. I wouldn't say very clean, but pretty clean pattern here. And there is potential for more upside. I gave you guys a price target of 1,050 on Nvidia, and I've also been telling you guys for quite a while here that 924. If we break above 924, then Nvidia is going to go higher, and that's exactly what happened. So right now, it looks like we're retesting 924. If we just so happen to give up 924, didn't mean to do that. If we just so happen to give up 924 here, then we could be heading back to the 900s, maybe retest this trend line. As you guys can see, this is a very significant trend. Over here, we rejected this trend, and even here, we consolidated under this trend. So if we do give up 924, then chances are we'll head towards 905, 900 range before we see that next move up. All right. So something to pay attention to. Your neckline for this head and shoulders pattern is 975. You give up, you break and hold above 975. This thing is going to 1,000. Easy. Rejection here, rejection here. So key area here. We even rejected here so far, but at around 950 area. So very, very key supply and demand zone. We break above this supply and demand zone. This thing is going to go ballistic. The only way I really imagine us heading towards 1,000 is maybe earnings or most likely earnings. So something to keep in on your radar as far as Nvidia. Looks really, really good here. I would be genuinely shocked if they just so happen to just plummet and give all of this up. That would be insane. All right, but it is earnings. It's totally a gamble when you're playing earnings, so keep that in mind as well. AMD. AMD got news Friday about with Microsoft, so that is something to keep in mind. It was pretty bullish news, something about competing with Nvidia and blah blah blah. I'm not much of a news trader, so feel free to look this information up yourself. But either way, I did run across that, so that is something to keep in mind and something to look up if you are interested in trading AMD or even Microsoft here. But your key levels as far as AMD is 163.8 and even 170, I would say 171 range. All right. Why? Rejection here, bounced here. So this is a very key area between 170, 170, I would say 170, 173 range is your supply and demand zone. And then right now we're pretty much consolidating. Let me actually zoom in. Hopefully you guys can see. But right now we're pretty much consolidating in this area. I imagine we're going to continue to do that. So I don't think AMD is quite safe to trade here. I mean, even here, right? We consolidated in this area for quite a bit. So I imagine the same thing is going to happen maybe until Nvidia earnings or whatever news we get the rest of this week. All right. So I imagine this is going to do something like this for majority or at least between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then maybe Nvidia earnings carry this either to the upside or to the downside, depending on how things go. All right. But 160, you want AMD to hold 160. You give up 160 on AMD, you're pretty illiquid to the downside. Very illiquid. We're probably going to move very fast back to that 150 area. All right. So something to keep in mind. The only thing I think can cause that type of move is maybe most likely Nvidia earnings. So something to keep in mind here. As far as upside goes, 173, you break above 173 on AMD, then chances are you're going to be in this liquid area and you're going to move fast. Again, I think if anything is going to cause these type of liquid moves and very fast moves, it's going to be Nvidia earnings, whether it's good or bad. And after that, you're looking at a move towards 185. Okay, I think it's going to happen fast. Okay, liquid here, liquid here. There's really nothing stopping you in these areas. So something to keep in mind. Again, I think between tomorrow and Tuesday, we're just going to consolidate in this area. I'm not expecting too much from AMD as far as the beginning of this week. ARM. ARM is a late bloomer. I think ARM is going to take off, most likely with NVIDIA earnings. Um, as far as your key level here, as far as ARM goes, 108, okay, 108 and 105. If it breaks below 105, and if you pay attention, you're going to see this pattern across semiconductors where there's liquid areas to the downside and very liquid areas to the upside. So that just shows me that they're preparing for earnings. Like these things are prepared for earnings, and there's not much turbulence on either side for a lot of these semiconductors. So that just shows me that they are preparing for earnings. And again, just like we saw in AMD, we're in this between this range here, right? So it looks like we can just be consolidating in this range for at least the beginning of this week between 120 and 108. Okay, so that is what I'm looking at. As far as if you give up 108, then you're heading to 105. If you give up 105, then things get pretty scary because you're in this liquid area and you can start heading towards 100. Lowest you're looking at is about 95, 87 range. Again, I don't think anything can cause that outside of Nvidia earnings. So if Nvidia earnings just determines everything. It's just going to determine the whole market right now. Okay, so keep this on your radar. Okay, and maybe FOMC, but right now I think everybody's going to be paying attention to Nvidia earnings. We've seen this last earnings season. No matter what the Fed said or anything bad that came in, Nvidia just carried the market higher. So I don't think FOMC anyone's going to care about FOMC, given on historical data and just based on what we saw last earnings season. I could be wrong. Okay. Um, but as far as upside goes, 123.5, I would say 124. And after that, you're just heading towards 130. Yeah, very key area here, bounced, bounced, and then we finally broke down. So, very key area. So, if we get a bounce off 108, then chances are we're heading back to that 120 area. And then we're just going to pretty much bounce in this area, between this area until NVIDIA earnings or whatever news comes in. Okay. SMH. So yeah, SMH pretty much supports the whole theory of semiconductors being pretty bullish and even consolidating Monday and Tuesday. Again, we're seeing the same thing here that we just saw in AMD and ARM here. We're in this range. Okay, so we can consolidate here. So Monday and Tuesday could be pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It may be pretty boring. Okay, if we just consolidate the way that these charts are showing on these semiconductors, then we can probably expect the same thing across the board for the market. But this is a very key area between 227 and 230. I would say 232, very significant area here. Rejection, rejection, rejection. You guys get the idea. Rejection, so on and so forth. So, very key area. I think SMH is going to go towards 240, but if it doesn't, and we just so happen to give up everything, we give up, what is it, 225, then yeah, things get pretty illiquid. Again, same thing. We just went over this on AMD and ARM. So it's clear. It's very clear that these semiconductors are waiting on Nvidia earnings. They are ready. They are ready for either major downside or they are ready for major upside because there's nothing but a void up here. Okay, you see it on AMD, you saw it on ARM. There is is just a liquid areas across the board between upside and downside. So we give up 225. I would say 220 because this area right here, you're dropping fast. The semiconductors are going to get wrecked. Okay, so yeah, keep those. Just keep that on your radar. Microsoft. So in the Discord, link is in the description below. But in the Discord, we are in Microsoft. Let me see. Microsoft 425 calls for May 24th at 2.35. We got in at around, I want to say 418, which was a very key level. I got in at around here where we wicked off here. So 418 is your key level. Why? We bounced here, rejected here, rejection, and then we finally broke through. Okay. Yeah, I think Microsoft is going to head towards this 430 area. Highest I'm looking at is about 432. I wouldn't even be surprised it goes higher than that. Again, I think given the news with Microsoft and AMD, if Nvidia earnings comes in good, then this thing is going to follow it. Obviously, the whole market is probably going to follow Nvidia earnings. So yeah, Nvidia earnings is just a major catalyst this week. I mean, it's going to be the catalyst of all catalysts. It's also important to note that April historically is the worst month for semiconductors. If you don't believe me, what happened on AMD earnings? What happened on Intel earnings? What happened on SMCI earnings? They all plummeted in April. And guess whose earnings doesn't have earnings in May? Nvidia. And May or doesn't have earnings in April. April again is the worst month for semiconductors, and Nvidia just so happened to dodge that bullet, right? But historically, May is the best month for semiconductors. It's the most bullish month for semiconductors. And guess who has earnings in May? I don't know. One plus one equals two, people. Do the math there. But either way, Microsoft, again, we're in this trade at around 418. I have a price target of 430. Yeah, Microsoft has been really lackluster. Even when it had decent earnings, it pretty much, I mean, right here, we gave that move all back. So I think Microsoft is a sleeper here, given that the news that it got between AM for AMD and whatnot. Yeah, if Nvidia moves, AMD is going to move, and then Microsoft's going to move. I just imagine that's what's going to happen. The whole market's going to move. All right. And again, you're seeing the same thing. I mean, again, one plus one equals two, people. We're stuck in between these ranges, and you're seeing it across the board. So I imagine we're just going to consolidate here until Nvidia earnings. Now, granted, I wouldn't call it so much consolidation because these are pretty decent moves, right? Pretty decent moves. But even over here, right? Consolidation in this range. So we are prepping for Nvidia earnings. But what happens when, as far as the upside goes? There's a void. There's nothing here. So we break above 430, 432, I would say. Yeah, this thing's going to rocket to like 450. I would say 470. It's going to go crazy. All right. But you're seeing this same pattern across the board where we're stuck in between two ranges on the market, across the market, and it's a liquid to either side. Okay, very liquid. You're not seeing much structure. You're not seeing much turbulence to either side. There's a little turbulence to the downside, but it's nothing significant enough to cause a huge stop. Okay, so something to pay attention to as far as Microsoft. 418 is your key level here. After that, you're looking at 416. I would say 415 psych level, and then after that, you give up 415. This thing is done for. All right, Amazon. Amazon, we're in a trade in the Discord as well. We're in 190 calls for I believe this week. If I can find it. Yeah. Amazon 190 cost for May 24th. My target is 192, 190 for Amazon. Amazon has a nice little cup and handle here. You got your cup and then you got your handle here. All right. Looking at the 4 hour time frame, Amazon just cannot get below 183. I mean, rejection here, bounced here, bounced here, bounced here. I mean, it just can't break it. It just can't. Okay, so unless terrible news comes in, I imagine Amazon's just going to go higher from here. Amazon's been lagging behind the market. It always does that. The market goes higher, and Amazon just takes its precious time. So I imagine it's either waiting on news or I don't know what else. But yeah, pretty confident on Amazon. If it can get above 187, I think this thing has the green light to go to 190. Highest I'm looking at is about 195 as far as Amazon. But that's really all I have, guys. I have more, but I've redid this video like 5 times because my mic sound was off and a few other things. So yeah, if you learned anything, hit that like button, turn on the notification bell, subscribe. If you agree or disagree, feel free to comment below. I'm always open to learning new things, and maybe I missed something here. All right, but that doesn't mean I'm going to always agree with you. Okay, because people have this idea that they could just comment bad things under my video, and I'm just supposed to agree with them. But yeah, other than that, Discord link is in the description below. We trade very often. As you guys can see, I mean, winners across the board, winners, winners. Yeah, so pretty consistent in the Discord. Okay, I would say that much. Okay, I'm not gonna boost my ego here, but very consistent. If you're interested in that, join. It's only $30 a month. I plan on raising the price soon. We're gonna start doing crypto like very soon, so you definitely want to jump on that train as well. Other than that, that's all I have, guys. Really appreciate the support, and until the next video, traders, have a good one.